nudged him, he gave me a little, I took that as a yes.
Give me an example of an that is yes and an that is no. Because maybe the nudge was a no. You are suing your ex-girlfriend.
I was not attracted to Garrett. He was extremely insecure and jealous, started manipulating me, mentally abusive, cut me off from all my friends, told me no one liked me. I was in like the deepest depression I've ever been, so I had to seek therapy.
Plaintiff Kenyatta Carpenter claims her son's best friend stole her son's car and destroyed it in a high-speed crash. She's suing for $3,000 for damages. Defendant Miles Hurst claims he had permission to drive the car and that faulty brakes led to the crash.
It's case number 202 on the docket. Carpenter versus Hurst.
Okay, and welcome to you three. We have the plaintiff, Ms. Carpenter.
Yes.
And this is your son?
Yes.
And you are here because you are suing Mr. Miles Hurst for car damages after you're saying he stole your son's car and crashed it.
Yeah. On New Year's Eve, Miles, the car thief, he stole my son's car and wrecked it. And he also wrecked his car and hit two other parked cars as well.
Yeah, I went over to his house and we recorded some music and then...
so you went over to his house?
Yes, sir. Yeah. And then about probably 1 o'clock, I fell asleep.
Yeah, because you'd been up
Yeah,
at
I've
6
been
in the
up.
morning.
I've been up, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up to a phone call, and they were saying that my car was in an accident. I'm like checking around, and I don't see my keys nowhere. So I'm like, where's my car? And I figured Miles stole the car, so...
Well, took the car.
Yeah.
Let's hear your side of the story.
Your Honor, this was a complete accident. I had permission to take Juan's car.
Did you ask him if he could take his car?
Okay, so I nudged him. He made...
this is when he's sleeping.
Yeah.
Okay,
you
nudged him.
Sleeping. I nudged him. He gave me a little, like a little noise. I took that as a yes.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
At this point...
Okay.
I asked.
Okay, if you could just give me an example of an that is yes and an that is no. I want to hear what the two sound like.
So
what's a yes sound like?
A yes is, like, I don't...
And what does a no sound like? Because maybe the nudge was a no.
A no could, I don't know.
Yeah, so you just heard a sound. You took the sound as a yes.
I asked a question and he responded. I took that as a yes.
Okay.
And I'm at work, so he give me a call, and I'm like, I can hear it in his voice that something had happened.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Juan, just tell me what's going on. So he like, Miles stole my car and he crashed it and hit two parked cars. So I'm like, what do you mean he stole your car? Like, once you at his house, what's going on? Now this New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And all this happening.
And I got a lift to the scene.
Right.
So once I got a lift to the scene, the officers showed me like some marks in the ground, indicated that he was speeding. And he was trying to turn a corner in the neighborhood.
Yes.
And he hit two cars like straight on, trying to turn to a right, trying to make a right turn.
Yeah. Reason B for me taking the car was I had got a phone call regarding one of my other artists, and he wanted me to send him some beats.
Yeah.
At the time, I did not have Wi-Fi in my house, so I wanted to go to the library up the street to go send the emails. So I get the keys, and my friend and I leave.
And you drive that car up to the library.
The library, boom.
Yes.
As I'm driving the car, I already can sense in the brakes that they were a little faulty. So
wow, that's a
we
lot.
get ready to drop my friend off.
Yes.
At his home, which is like 5 minutes from the library.
Yeah, so you drove there.
I'm familiar with the area because I used to live there.
Yeah.
So I know how this is set up. There's a straightaway right before you get to his little building or whatnot.
Yeah.
There's even a speed bump before the turn.
Yeah.
So right before the turn, I slam on brakes. I turn the wheel all the way to the right, and the car starts sliding. We slide a good 10 yards before we hit the other two cars.
Yeah.
And from this point, my friend hops out and starts running. And I'm just sitting there like, no, we cannot run.
Well, that was a good decision.
Yeah.
You're not running, okay.
The police arrived. And
What did the police say to you?
That was the part that shocked me, because when he arrived, they just stopped talking to me completely.
Yeah.
They just, I literally walked away. 15 minutes later, no ticket, no paper, nothing. So I'm like,
do you have a police
Yes,
report?
I have police report and pictures.
If I could take a look at
of
that,
the damage.
This is the damage to what, your car?
Yes,
And it looks like the airbags were released?
yes. So basically, the car was totaled.
Okay, let me read the police report. Vehicle 1 struck Vehicle 2, that's the car that was parked in the back bumper. Then front bumper struck Vehicle 3, that's the other parked car. Vehicle 1 sustained disabling damage, that's the car you were driving, to its front bumper. Vehicle 2 sustained moderate damage. Vehicle 3 sustained disabling damage. Vehicle 1 airbags were deployed after the collision, but in no place does it say what the speed was.
That was what the police officer told me. He showed
That's
me,
what he told you,
yeah,
but it's
he
not in
showed
the
me
report.
2 skid marks on the
But
ground.
clearly, the car he was driving was your car, and it hit these 2 parked cars, sustaining the damage that you're indicating by these
Yes.
pictures, and you'll give me some report on what the cost of those damages are. That's what you're trying to recover.
Yes.
So you can pay to have it fixed. So there's about, just in these 2, $6,000 worth of damage. Okay.
I feel I do
So
not.
what'd you do with the car then?
With the car?
was left
that you
there.
were driving in.
Okay, so it was left there. In my opinion, there's not $3,000 worth of damage.
Okay, we'll
the
get to
car.
that later.
Wow.
But
Okay.
you hit the 2 cars.
Yeah.
No dispute with that. You got out of the car. Your friend ran, you stayed. The police came, they talked to you.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
Okay.
You get back in the car?
No, okay, so I'm sitting here.
Who took the car back?
Okay, so the tow
got
truck,
towed.
the tow truck driver, he gets in the car and he drives it onto the tow truck.
Yeah.
And Quan hops in the passenger side and they just leave. The police said nothing to me.
Okay. The one part is irrelevant to the case. Whether or not he stole it or what that meant.
Right.
Okay? It doesn't much matter because even if he gave you permission to drive it, you were driving it. So that doesn't have anything to do with the liability in terms of who caused the accident. I'm going to say that the accident was not caused by the 2 parked cars. Okay. So now, call me crazy. So now the question is, your defense is, yes, I was driving the car, I made a quick turn, but the brakes didn't work properly. That's your defense.
Also, I don't know, my memory is not 100% on it, but I don't know the condition of the tires. Like,
Those tires
They were brand new.
They were because he actually paid. It has rims on the tires.
Yeah.
So he paid for rim tires. So
Yeah.
those tires was brand new.
Okay.
And then also too, like it caused him to lose a job. Like he had a job offer that next week,
For a
and it
delivery
was
driver.
a delivery job. So he couldn't even take the job because he didn't have a car.
He doesn't have a car. Okay, I got it all. But here's why I'm reaching the conclusion that I am going to reach it. Whatever you thought the brakes were, they certainly were good enough for Quan to drive the car over to your house. And when he came to your house, he didn't crash into your house. He stopped the car. The brakes must have worked.
of course.
Then you went to the library, but you didn't crash into the library. The brakes worked. In other words, the brakes were working. They may not have been the best brakes in the world, but the truth is, particularly if there was a speed bump, you must have been going at some speed afterwards so that you couldn't make that turn, which you admit you lived in the neighborhood, you knew where the turn was. You were driving his car. You believed you had the right to drive it, but that's not the issue. Friends, one friend used the other friend's car. What happened is you got in an accident. You're liable. You're the only one that was driving it. And there's not sufficient evidence that this car was out of control, and my gosh, the best driver in the world couldn't have stopped it. So you are responsible for the accident, and I looked at the damages, and the damages to that vehicle add up, in fact, to even more than $3,000, but you sued for $3,000, so I fined for the plaintiff in the sum of $3,000.
In the future, I don't know if we'll be friends again because like that was a trust. Like, I trust him for me to be able to fall asleep at his house, but clearly I can't trust nobody like that no more.
For his next car, he better make sure that he do not fall asleep at nobody else's house.
I guess it's acceptable. I did crash the car, so I mean, it is what it is. It was an accident at most, but everything, it's all right.
Plaintiff Garrett Farr thought he'd found love in a new town, but things went south. Now he's suing his ex for $2,390 for unpaid rent. Defendant Emily Raska says she didn't even find Garrett attractive at first and caught him cheating.
Case number 204 on the docket, Farr versus Raska.
Okay, we have the plaintiff, Mr. Farr. You are suing your ex-girlfriend, Emily Raska, for $2,390 for 2 months of unpaid rent and a lease buyout fee.
Correct.
All right, go ahead.
So in November 2017, I moved from Wisconsin to Seattle. I just wanted to experience a new portion of the country, meet some new people.
Yes.
First week that I moved out there, in order to meet some new people, I went to a concert. I was approached by this girl. She was very attractive. We hit it off, obviously at the same concert, so we have similar interests.
You're speaking of the defendant.
Correct,
Yes.
Emily.
I was not attracted to Garrett. I knew he was new to Seattle, so I decided to give him my number to introduce him to people.
Yes.
Get him some friends. A few weeks later, we started hanging out more, started dating. I became attracted to him. I started to like him.
So we hit it off about 3 months into the relationship. She was living with some friends. Decided that it would be a smarter decision with finances to move in together, split the expenses right down the middle.
He suggested probably like 3 months into our dating that
Yeah.
we move in together. I did. It was great for a little bit. Started to go downhill really fast.
I do have the lease that shows we're both on it together.
Okay, if I could see that, please. And the lease was for a year?
Correct. So from March of 2018 to March of 2019.
You are, Judge.
Okay, thank you.
We moved in together in March. Things were really going well. And then a few months into it, the rose-colored glasses fell off. And I started to see some red flags that I should have saw early on in the relationship.
I was a bartender at the time.
Yes.
So my job is to be super friendly, you know, play a game. Basically, that's how you make money.
Yes.
He was extremely insecure and jealous of that. Started manipulating me, mentally abusive, cut me off from all my friends, told me no one liked me.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Okay, she's talking.
Was
okay,
in like the deepest depression I've ever been, so I had to seek therapy.
In mid-summer, we got a trip together, planned a trip together to Mexico. And then in September, we went to a show together, and her mom was there with us. We were waiting in line for alcohol, and this other very attractive girl came up to me and started talking to me. During that time, Emily came over and wanted to show some PDA. I'm sure you know what that is, public display of affection. I'm not a very affectionate person in public, so I just wanted my distance from Emily, and at that point she became very abrasive.
He was basically just like gone the whole time, didn't want anything to do with me.
We went home and had an argument, and during that argument came to light that she was only with me to put up with me until the trip to Mexico, and that she had planned on breaking up with me after the trip to Mexico.
He was on multiple dating apps, messaging multiple girls. I brought it up, woke him up in the middle of the night, showed him.
So at that point, I was done with the relationship.
And when was this?
This was end of September,
So September, and the lease ran till when?
March of 2019.
Oh, so you still had 10
Correct.
months left on the lease.
Correct.
So that's when you broke up.
Correct.
What I'm getting from both of you, obviously, which is not abnormal. Sometimes relationships in the beginning, you think, ooh, this could be great. And it turned out not to be. You're not compatible. You didn't like the way he was unhappy with you, whatever. You know, that's not the basis of a court suit, particularly you're not married or anything. What's at stake here is the lease.
So
Yes.
we broke up in September.
Okay. Is that when you moved out?
No. So we broke up, decided that Garrett was gonna keep the apartment.
Okay.
That's what we decided. Went through all the options. I was like, here, we can either move out, buy out the lease. He said, no, I'm gonna keep the apartment. I said, okay. We agreed that I would not be responsible for any of the rent. I have text messages
And
showing.
you physically moved out?
No, so I stayed
When-
for a month
Okay.
to find a new place to live. I was there till October. I paid the rent until
October. So we're talking.
No, I moved out September. Because I moved into my new place like October 1st.
Okay. So you
Yes.
moved out in September.
Yes, he
What
agreed.
are you going to show me?
I have messages where he agrees that I will not be paying rent for when I didn't live there.
So he says, I am going to pay the rent because I am living here, and if it doesn't get paid, I don't have a place to live, and that's that. So you said, okay, so you're saying yes, you're going to pay the full rent. I already told you I was. So by these texts, you are saying you're going to stay there, which I guess you did for the time being, and she doesn't have to pay the rent. You take care of it.
I initially had said that I would pay for it, but
Yeah.
as I did state as well, the only reason I was paying is because I'm not going to be evicted. So if she's not going to pay her half and I get evicted, then that's on me. I'm the one living there. I didn't have any other options. That's why I stayed there for 2 months until I found some coworkers that I could move in with.
At some point, you approached the landlord for a buyout.
Correct.
Tell me about that.
We agreed that the lease buyout, once I found a place to live, would be the best option to go. That is a month and a half worth of rent, which I do have that I paid in full.
Okay.
I also have her saying that she would split the buyout with me as opposed to the portion that she just paid.
So the buyout fee...
You kicked me out, so that's your problem, Garrett.
Okay, the buyout fee was what?
$2,400,
And you're saying the defendant paid how much of that?
$600.
So that's why your suit is asking for $600 there.
Correct.
Your suit is also asking...
Why don't you ask your Tinder girlfriend to pay it?
Okay. Your suit is also asking for 2 months' rent.
Correct. So she was still on the lease for the 2 months.
I understand that. But you made the initial decision, which the texts represent, that you were going to try to stay there and be able to afford the rent yourself.
Correct. I did not have any other options.
I understand. But that's a decision you made, so I'm afraid that part you have to live with.
Even being contractually obligated to pay her portion of the lease?
But you decided, for maybe very good reason, I don't have a place to move yet. I'm going to stick it out for 2 months. I'll take care of the rent. So for those 2 months, that is on you. It didn't work out. You do owe him the other $600 for the half of the buyout that you agreed on. I fine for the plaintiff in the sum of $600.
Definitely not going to move into a relationship or move in with someone 3 months into it. Definitely going to take my time going forward.
Next time, I won't move in with someone so early.
Thanks for watching. Now please approach the bench. The way I look at it, you have 2 options here. Option A, watch more Judge Jerry. Option B, watch more Jerry Springer. The choice is yours. Now get out of my courtroom. You have more clips to watch. And don't forget to subscribe.